Evangelion. You cannot be serious. So the pacing takes a nosedive from some of the fastest paced content that I've ever seen to being pretty darn slow. Imagine a world of Asuka's where she's the boss and stupid Shinji is there. This is what I thought of when I first saw that there was an Evangelion reboot. Then I was surprised when I saw the first two actually rebuilding the series and branching out. However, this doesn't focus on Asuka, which might have made the movie 10 times better if I'm being honest. It still focuses on Shinji, which you wouldn't really think to be a bad thing, but what if Shinji wasn't needed to pilot the Eva? Curious, but doesn't that break the game? Well, he suffers from boredom, and unfortunately so do I, and introduces the main theme and lesson of this movie, which is change. I could see that being a statement, since this is a reboot and all. I welcome change, but this doesn't do anything with it. In a way, it's a double standard, because Coward keeps saying to accept it and repeat the same notes until it feels good, but at the same time, he's like, same thing won't do anything. Let's go reboot the planet the way it was. Basically whatever Shinji wants to hear at the time. And in a way, it's reflective because he's acting as Shinji's temptation. The truth weakens Shinji, and Kaoru was there when nobody else was. Then they throw it out the window during the third quarter when he's telling Shinji to do one thing and Shinji's like, no! So Shinji's a little dweeb just used for plot convenience. I ask myself, why? Shinji's decisions don't make much sense at that point. Everything before that, and you'll know if you see it, can be attributed to trauma, as I mentioned. This also might be the biggest example of keeping the main character out of the loop, and unfortunately, that also means the viewer. To quote the actual movie,
I don't understand what you're telling me. I don't understand!
the whole thing just kind of seemed irrelevant, because you end up basically the same way you ended up with 2.0. So when I first saw this movie, I hated it, but after seeing Thrice Upon a Time, it kind of clicked. I actually had to rewrite this review a little. Let me show you. So 1.0 and 2.0 interlock. They're like two puzzle pieces. Then you get to 3.0, and that piece doesn't exactly fit into 2.0. And most of that is because of the 14-year time skip. What does connect it is the ending. That time skip is especially confusing because you have pacing of the first two films, and you have this piece which doesn't really do much. It doesn't do anything for 2.0, and it can't stand on its own, so what's it going to do? It didn't feel finished. It felt like it needed a companion. Then Thrice comes in and is like, let me interlock a little bit. It's not perfect, but it's still better than what this is over here. It's more of a complicated piece this time around, which I'll get to, but it starts to make a bit more sense as to why 3's there in the first place. Maybe that's why they have 3.0 and 1.0 in it. It's not as distorted anymore. You see what I was trying to do over time, that is. You're gonna hate me for saying this, but I think you should watch the series more than once, or at least this movie. Now listen, shock value. That's what this movie was going for. And they were probably planning on doing 3.0 plus 1.0 right after, and obviously that didn't happen. So on its own, I hated it. It's not a good sequel with the others. It started to seem better and deserved another visit afterwards, though, so I would consider it maybe. It was stuck between a rock and a hard place because you can't really understand it without the movie's previous, its own movie. Sounds like a contradiction, but this is such a hard one to rate because of that. I'll give it a 6 right now.